Hi, welcome to the channel Coder's Arc, where we unravel the world of coding and architecture together. And today I'm going to discuss how I passed my recent Salesforce Agentforce Specialist Certification exam. I took this exam a couple of weeks ago, and I will share some key learnings not only from the exam but also from the learning material. And hopefully, if you are planning on taking this exam or you're already scheduled to take this exam, this video, spending about 8 to 10 minutes on this video, you might find it helpful to clear the exam yourself. So let's dive right into it. So the exam is broken down into 4 core sections. First is the prompt engineering, which covers about 30% of the exam. Then you have the Agentforce basics, which also cover 30% of the exam. Then you have data cloud, which covers about 20 to 25% of the exam. Then you have a mix of questions from concepts like testing, sales cloud, and service cloud. Depending on when you're taking the exam, I took this exam in November of 2025, but depending on when you're taking the exam, just make sure that you're checking if the Agentforce exam is broken down into the same core sections. Most likely it will, but as Agentforce as the technology is evolving, I'm assuming that even the content will vary slightly. So just keep an eye out for that. So let's dive right into each one of these core sections. So the first one is prompt engineering. In prompt engineering, you will get questions mostly around 4 different types of prompt templates: and the email sales template, the record summary template, the field generation template, and the flex templates. Now, where I would suggest is where each of these scenarios are, where all these 4 templates are used, and then also some direction on how many objects are allowed per template, or where the retrievers are within a template. What are some use cases for using a flex template versus a field generation template? What kind of changes need to be made on the UI when you're using field generation templates? So you need to learn all these tricks and tips. I won't go into the detail on each one of those because there is already very comprehensive material available from Udemy describing that. So I suggest you go ahead and check some Udemy course material, but you can also find some free content on YouTube. Just make sure then if you're looking at the YouTube content that the date is close to the date when you're taking the exam, because like I said, Agentforce as a technology is evolving, so you don't want to look at old videos, as some of the content from older videos might not be relevant. So let's dive into the Agentforce basics part now. In the Agentforce basics, you need to know the key concepts of classification, description, instructions, scope, how the different types of agent actions are, and how an agent is orchestrating these different types of actions to achieve what it wants. There will be a lot of scenario-based questions, so I think you need to brush up those concepts in details. One of the best ways to learn Agentforce concepts in detail is obviously looking at the Udemy material, but also building your own agents hands-on. Also try to figure out all the different kinds of permissions that are needed for the agents, and I think you will do really well in this section if you've built your own agents. The next section is the data cloud. This one can get a little bit tricky. In the data cloud section, though, I got 100%. So where I found it very, very successful is if you clearly understand how the structured and unstructured data pipelines work, if you understand the core concepts of retrieval augmented generation, as I've done a lot of videos in the past describing retrieval augmented generation in Bedrock and other technologies. So I think as a concept, you need to know that. You need to know how indexes work, how retrievers work, how chunking works, how vectorization works. And again, the best way to get experience with data cloud is if you have built it hands-on. There will be a lot of technical questions, a lot of scenario-based questions, and one of the things about this exam is the questions themselves are not that hard. It's the choices that they give. They look so close to each other that unless you thoroughly know these concepts, chances are you might trip on some of the questions. So be very, very thorough by doing some hands-on work. And the final section of the exam is where you learn how to do the scaling, performance, deployment of the agents from lower environments to upper environments, as well as a mix of questions between the Sales Cloud and Service Cloud for Agentforce. These questions again are relatively simpler. They are more theoretical. There are some scenario based questions, but again, nothing substitutes learning but doing it hands-on. So in essence, I have covered all 4 to 5 core areas which are going to be covered in the exam. Again, I think the 3 most important areas are prompt engineering, Agentforce basics, and data cloud. I don't think they're going to change much, at least in the next few months, so continue to practice hands-on on those. And then if you're finally taking the online exam, one final tip from me is test the software, the Proctor software, ahead of time, and make sure you always stay within the view of the camera. I made the mistake on my first attempt. I got out of the view of the camera just to grab a drink, and I got disqualified in the first attempt. So make sure you don't make such stupid blunders. I was on the 5th or 6th question and I was coasting through the exam. So in the second attempt, I made sure my drink was with me and I was able to complete the exam. One thing to make sure is the questions themselves are not that difficult, but the choices look very similar to each other. So make sure you thoroughly reread when you're answering these questions. What I meant is, once I took all 65 questions, I went back and revised my answers. So along the way, you can mark the answers or mark the questions that you think are suspicious. I think once you practice enough, it took me only less than 2 to 3 weeks to practice. I was already using Agentforce for a long time, so for me it was much simpler to take this exam. But if you're brand new to this technology, I would suggest don't rush through the exam. Prepare properly, get hands-on experience, watch the material a couple of times, and I think you will do really well in this exam. So with that said, hopefully you found the value in this video useful, and if you did, please hit subscribe and like, and I will talk to you in my next video.